Okay, the first edition of Common Ground. I'm here with Brad Koffel.
And Charlie.
And Charlie and Michelle. And so Common Ground. Let me just tell you what Common Ground is about. I'm going to describe some ways in which you and I find to be similar. Things we have in common. And then I'm going to define some ways that we are different. And my theory is that if we can all
You're not
find...
going to make fun of me, are you? On our differences?
That may be possible.
Okay, it goes both ways.
But the theory is that it is in the common ground that we can build trust, love, all kinds of things. And in today's world, finding trust and love and building common ground is a really good thing. And we can be a little bit less polarized. So, okay. So let me start. It'll get you thinking. All right. So, I think we are both super goal-oriented. I think we're both really articulate. Good speakers. I think we're both really introspective. I think we're both incredibly decisive. We are having this for dinner tonight. Boom. Decisions are made. We both like blondes a lot.
Yeah. I really like your blonde.
I know, and you like my blonde, oddly enough.
I know.
I don't know how that works.
I went Sid High because of your blonde.
That's right. And neither of us like small talk.
No. To speed it up.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, so get along. What do we have that is different? One, you root for the wrong football team. So you're Ohio State Buckeye fan. We're sitting in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, based on the Buckeye performance, you're right. I am rooting for the wrong football team.
Correct. Okay. So glad you finally admitted that. This is also something I find to be different. I think you seek routine, and I never seek routine. I always want diversity, spontaneity. And this will lead into you having a chance to talk about your views of those things and other things that you see. But also, I would say this is an area to explore, because I find this tension in you between a routine and I want to do crazy things and things that I haven't been able to do and so forth and so on. So, okay. So, what do you think of my list of the things that we have in common and the things that we are different?
Well, you've had a lot of time to prepare for this.
Correct. I had the whole cab ride here.
Right. The commonalities, I think you're right on. We don't like to beat around the bush, kind of like to get to the point. I think both of us are very empathetic.
Yes.
And desire to have not necessarily mend fences. We're trying to avoid fences being broken to begin with, but if there are broken fences, we'd like to mend those fences. I think we're holistic. I think both of us are very holistic.
Yeah.
In every aspect of our lives. And we're always trying to improve without necessarily saying there's anything wrong with us.
This was the introspective bit.
Yeah.
I would really say the right word is probably curious.
Curious.
About ourselves, about others.
Yeah.
Whatever.
For sure.
We got a million questions all the time.
Like to learn. Yeah, right. I mean, you do too.
Yeah.
So I think those are very common ground.
Yeah.
Differences.
Politically, you're also incorrect.
Well, let's not get carried away.
Hey.
No, I think that the fact that you want Gavin Newsom to be the president of the United States.
I want anybody but Biden and Trump.
Yeah. Politically, no, I'm a staunch America First, nativist, semi-isolationist, for sure. And I'm offended that that a certain segment of the community can't embrace our own traditions, and it seems as though the American ideal is under attack, and I think the American ideal has the Americanization of the world has made it a much better place, and the fact that America is now turning into some sort of pariah that needs to be reduced to rubble is extremely dangerous.
Yep. And so we're not going to get in a political argument, but I would just say, from my perspective, all those people are trying to get across the border. It must be horrible on the other
Absolutely.
side. So I have a ton of empathy for them. So I'm willing to allow them. I don't want 5,000 people crossing the border every day, but in effect, I have enough empathy for how that works. And I'm also a globalist. I'm definitely not a nativist. I think the world has to find a way to work together.
Yeah.
So we are on opposite sides. But we can have this discussion because we're both reasonably calm. It doesn't have to be emotion-ridden discussion in order to we can agree to disagree and not argue.
Well, let me address let me address the immigration issue. So they're all rational actors, and there's a cost-benefit analysis associated with I'm going to take my family, or I'm going to send my kid, or we're going to go, and we're going to go through the Darien Gap, and we're going to deal with coyotes, and we're going to cross the border into who knows where, and I'm going to take my kids, and they're going to see dead bodies, they're going to see the worst of humanity. But you're right, wherever they're coming from is horrible, and the focus needs to be not on how many people are coming across the border. The focus needs to be, if we're going to spend $400 billion on border security, let's take a large chunk of that budget and invest it into their communities, so that
Before they get here.
correct. So that the cost benefit analysis.
Yeah, go back to the cost.
Right, and also put the money there. There are tremendous natural resources. There's a lot of potential in Central and South America. There's a ton of corruption that needs to be rooted out. And then the cost benefit analysis fails, where it doesn't make any sense to risk your life or the life of your kids to come to the United States.
So I think that's really something I also believe in. We're addressing the symptom, not the problem.
Yeah.
We're stopping people at the border, or we're letting people into the border.
Well, this has been going on. This is how Rome, quote, fell.
But if we had gone and enabled those communities to be in a better position, those people to have better lives, we'd be in a better place. The same thing applies to drugs, right? Like, we throw people in jail for having drugs, but like, why don't we just try and go figure out?
It's a communication malfunction
Yeah.
from the top to the people. For instance, our foreign policy, why we're fighting a proxy war in Ukraine, what to do between the Palestinians and the Israelis. It's a communication problem. We all want peace, but we're getting mixed messaging or no messaging.
Yeah. Okay, so we have 30 or so odd years of foundation upon which we can have any discussion without offending each other. I have 30 years of foundation with a lot of other people. I don't have those discussions. Number one, they're not that interested in the discussion, but they're incapable of having it without getting emotionally wrapped up in it. But the thing I think that I just want to spend 1 minute on the last topic is your self-reflection, self-improvement is an obsession, effectively. Has been your whole life. How am I going to get faster? How am I going to get smarter? How am I going to get a leg up on folks? How am I going to be a better mom or better dad, better husband, better everything? Where does that come from?
It's very easy. It's called horrible insecurity. As with anyone else. And I was, lose my dad at 9. I was an only child, lived on the east side of Columbus. We were dealing with, I was always a runt, undersized kid. In high school, I went out and wrestled, thought I would go try a new sport, and I was all of 105 pounds, never won a match. 0-16, right? 15 pins. And it was absolute.
Hey, I was a trumpet player.
Yeah, but I
was in the
didn't know
band.
that. Okay, sorry. We still got you in the house. That's amazing.
What the hell?
It's just insecurity, and everyone has levels of insecurity. And mine was always just trying to figure out how to fill in those gaps of insecurity to try to be more like the people that I respected and admired. You being one.
So, this is kind of, we weren't the coolest kids in high school, we weren't whatever. Do you think that's a reason empathy exists? Do you think that's a reason we sort of have a problem with bullies and take care of people who are in a hard spot? I mean, do you think that's the reason? Because we came from that place?
I think, unfortunately, a lot of this is learned behavior. And kids are exposed to a lot of latent evil. Evil meaning we would never treat someone the way kids get treated behind their back, and now they know because with digital world, it's all in front of them. I think there's a lot of cruelty in the world. And I think there's a lot of cruelty in homes, and I just think that kids pick up on parents who are cruel to each other, and I think there are a lot of parents that are cruel to their kids, and they may think that it's tough love, or they might think it's some other form of parenting, but the kids perceive it as cruelty, and we know that cruelty gets projected onto others. So when you're mean to someone, that's an example of you.
Yep.
You're a projector under a wall. That's all you're showing.
Yeah, I always say to Haley and Tommy, when somebody's being mean, that means they're insecure.
Yeah.
So it's not about you; it's about them.
Yeah, and they may be projecting frustration and anger from home onto an easy target at school, and whether it's the chubby kid at school or the slow kid or the girl that wears the glasses, you and I are the first one that would go hug that kid that's being bullied too.
For sure. I think that's a pet peeve of mine. Bullies. Okay. So we
want to bully bullies.
Yeah.
Can you do that?
Freaking knock them out. Okay. So last topic. Something you see in me that you would like to have more of, or would like to do more of, or seize upon. I'll start. I find your impatience is a virtue. Meaning you are impatient in a meaningless conversation that's not going to go anywhere. You're impatient in getting better for yourself, enabling things for your family, getting to answers to questions that are out there but you want them now. And so I think even from this weekend, all the time we spent, like, I want to embed that impatience in me for making me a better person. Mm-hmm. And I think that's an admirable thing, not just for yourself, but in general. Like, you're solving problems ahead of the problems. You are always looking ahead and then feasting on paths to find a way to get to those things with the most open of minds along the way. So whatever that is, impatience, open mind, constant improvement, self-actualization, that path of things in you is really special.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
I think it's also a weakness, but
you're saying you want to think less.
Yes, I get out of my head and go from here to here and live life, coast through life more heart-oriented, not rationality, intelligence, and need to know. Not everything requires me to go on Wikipedia and read about it.
I need answers now.
Right. This goes back to the curiosity feedback loop in our brains. You're curious, and I'm curious. I think millions of people are curious. I think with you, you have a joy, I don't know how to say it in French, you would, but a joy of life, a joy of...
Joie de vivre.
Yes. And you've always been a hub, whereas a lot of other people are spokes. Some people are both hubs and spokes. I'm definitely a spoke, but you've always been a hub. People gravitate to you. You're a consensus builder. You're a good listener. You're a team builder. You're a motivator. And I am really not any of those. I'm not, as an only child entrepreneur,
right.
Lawyer, trial lawyer. None of that skill set is
it doesn't serve you.
There's really not because I don't do well in committees. I'm just not. So my guess is you're really good in board meetings and committees and consensus building. It's always been a weakness. I like that. And the joy to life, what'd you say? Joy what?
Joie de vivre.
Yeah. That, just how you've taken your family and your kids have lived in Europe, your kids have lived in different parts of America, you've exposed them to a really amazing part of the United States, at probably one of the most amazing, probably the biggest time since the 1849 gold rush. You're there, and just being a phenomenal father and husband. You never hear anything about Mike being a bad dad or a bad husband, and that.
God, I hope not.
Yeah, and I value that. That's a huge value trait that I put on men specifically, and I'm a cruel judge to men that are not that way.
So these videos are kind of for me, but really for Tommy and Haley, and in effect, the 50 people or 60 people, whatever the number is, that affected my life. This is how you've affected my life, right? Like, so I think we captured much of that.
Yeah, but I want to finish my point. Your decisions that you made were family first.
Yeah.
And you knew that living in England, you knew what you're exposing your kids to, but you also knew it was going to be disruptive, and there was going to be there was raising kids and going to they went to American. Or they did go to American. Did I recall
Tommy
they
went to an American school. Haley went to a British.
Yeah, but they were very. That to me, that is just amazing, and it's a huge regret I have is that even though we've traveled with our kids a fair amount, nothing close to what you guys have done, and I relish that. I think that's fantastic.
Well, so let me just make one comment about that. I think the thing I value the most from that experience, but also in general, is perspective. Right?
Right.
Like, the British people live differently. The German people live differently. They value different things. They treat each other differently in different places. The guy that lived across the street from me in England, if he saw me walking to the train in the morning to go to work, he would not bother me. He wouldn't say hello. I thought he was being rude. I'd see him in the pub at the end of the day, and he'd be like, "Oh, hey, how's it going? What's happening? How's your day, Michael?" Because the pub is the place where you gather, and the pub is where you converse. But you leave people alone the other times. Like, unless you have more perspective, you're unable to imagine what somebody else is going through, unable to understand another culture, understand another way of thinking, an engineer versus a salesperson, a lawyer versus an accountant. So, like, having perspective is everything. So, I think forcing perspective is really valuable.
Yeah, if we went around wearing uniforms like military uniforms that had mementos of the past, a badge for living here or a ribbon for doing this, your kids would have amazing uniforms, and they would have a lot of riveting. They'd have a lot of their chest would look like a 4-star general.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's really that's fantastic.
Yeah.
We live in a great community here, but there's just not a level of that type of. There's travel to ski slopes in Florida.
Yeah.
But that's not what you guys did.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, it's good. I've enjoyed it too. Okay.
Thanks so much for the 3-minute interview.
Yeah, so that's it. We ran long, but there was too much going on.
Love you, buddy.
Thank you, my friend. I love you too.
Thanks.